Hi everyone, welcome back to PrepLoop. So far our programs execute statements one by one, but sometimes we need to repeat the same operation multiple times. For example, printing numbers from 1 to 100. Instead of writing 100 print statements, we use loops. So why loops are important? Let's check that quickly with example. So let's say I have to print numbers 1 to 10. I'll just say 1 to 5 for example. So what I'll do, I'll print 1, the same 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So this prints numbers 1 to 5 here. Now if I have to print 10 numbers, 100 numbers, we can't keep writing the system.out.println 100 times, right? So this becomes inefficient. So loops solve this problem. So let's see what is a loop. Okay, a loop is used to repeat a block of code multiple times based on a condition. So we have to give some condition, based on that condition the same block of code, that is, for example, in this case the system.out.println will be executed multiple times till that condition fails. So let's check the syntax first. For loop, for open and close brace, here we have to write initialization, condition, update, and open and close braces here, and add code which has to be repeated. Okay, so this is the syntax for the for loop here. Let's break down this each part and understand it clearly. Okay, here what is initialization here? Initialization runs only one time, so runs once, and for example I can say int I equal to 1. Okay, so this is how initialization looks, and it only runs one time. This is very important. And the second is the condition. Condition is checked before each iteration. So after executing this code, it comes back and checks for this condition. So for example, if I is greater than or equal to 5, this is one of the example for a condition. And next comes the update. Update runs after each iteration. Okay, so after executing the entire code, it will do the update. So it runs after each iteration. For example, I can say I++ here. So in this case, I++ is the update. Let's understand the flow now. So let's take an example here. So let's say, so first step is adding initialization, so which is int I equal to 1 for example. Okay, and then comes the condition. Let's say we can write I is less than or equal to 3. Then comes the update. Update example is I++ and open braces, and here print I will be the statement inside this. Now let's see the step one by one. So let's say first step will be initialization, which runs only one time here. Okay, so which runs once. Okay, so here first time I will be 1 here. Okay, then second step will be check condition. So here what is the condition? So condition is I is less than or equal to 3. So first time what happens? I is 1, right? 1 is less than or equal to 3. Yes, it's true for the first iteration, right? Before starting the executing the program, it checks for the condition. So the check condition is true, right? Since it's true, it comes inside this block of code and executes this code. So the third step will be executing code. Executing the body, which is nothing but the code written inside this for loop, which is printing I here. So let's print the I here, which is 1. Okay, next goes to update statement. So here update is nothing but increment by 1. So in this case, after this increment is triggered, then I becomes 2 here, right? So what happens here? First it checked for the condition and it executed the block, which is print I, and then once the execution is completed, it checks for the update here. Update condition runs after each iteration. So I became 2 here. The next step will be repeat the above steps. Okay. So what happens here? I is 2, right? Now this first initialization will not work because it will run only once here. So it will not repeat again. So we have to repeat it from point 2 here, which is check condition. Now what is the I here? I is 2 here. We have to check if 2 is less than or equal to 3. So it's true, right? So second time also it's true. So if it's true, then it comes inside the braces and executes the body and prints 2 here. Okay. And then after executing this statement, it will go to the update. It increments I to 3 and again repeat, and it repeats from check condition. So I became 3. So if 3 is less than or equal to 3, yes, because it's equal to also added here. So yes, 3 is equal to 3. Again it becomes true here, and then it executes the body, which is print I, and now increments the I. So I will be 4 here. Now again we have to repeat. While repeating here, check the condition now. So if I is 4, so 4 is less than or equal to 3? No. So it's false now. Okay. So whenever there is a false, then executes the point 6, which is end loop. Okay. So whenever the condition fails, that is it returns false, then it ends the loop. Okay, let's execute the same in IntelliJ and check the output. So like I mentioned, initialization will be int I equal to 0 here. That's the example, or I can take it from 1, and condition will be next the condition, which is I is less than or equal to 5, and then I plus plus. Okay, and let's print I here. Okay, and let's run this and see what we get as output here. Yeah, I'll zoom in a bit. 1 to 5 numbers are printed with only one line of execution here. So I'll quickly debug this and show you how it works. So first time I equal to 1 here, and it prints. I'll also add here. Now next let's run this. Now I became 2 here and the condition is true. Then it prints I equal to true here, 2, sorry, and then I becomes 3, and it again goes to the update function, and I became 4. It also prints 4 here as it is less than or equal to 5. Then again I becomes 5 now. 5 is also getting printed. Then finally I becomes 6 and it comes out of the loop. Okay. So you can even add debug points like this, and then you can check one by one. Okay. Now let's stop this. Now if you see, all these are added in the next line, right? If you want to add in the same line, you can remove the println and then you can add a space here. Okay, and if you execute, 1 to 5 numbers are printed in the same line. Okay, this is how you can add any number of lines inside this for loop, and this will be executed till the condition is true. Okay, once the condition is false, it will come out of the loop and starts executing the next line. Now let's see how to print the reverse loop here. So instead of printing 1 2 3 4 5, let's see how do we print 5 4 3 2 1 here. Okay, now in this case, I'll first initially take I as 5 because that's the first number I have to print, and I also have to say if I is greater than or equal to 0, then print. So till 1 I have to print, right? So I mean, if I have to print till 0, I have to give equal to, otherwise I have to give greater than, and I have to give minus minus here. If you want to give equal to also, you can give by 1. Okay, so execute this and print 5, and every time you decrement the I by 1 and check for the condition till it gets 1. Okay, so let's run this and you can see this, right? 5 4 3 2 1. Again, I can quickly debug this here and here, and I'll run this in debug mode. And first time, if you see, I is 5, then it becomes 4, then it becomes 3, 2, 1, and it becomes 0 and comes out of the loop. Okay. So it's not always we have to increment or decrement by 1. We can have any logic here. So for example, I will increment by 2 every time. For example, I equal to 0, and if I is less than or equal to 10, always increment I by 2. So we can write this by saying I equal to I plus 2. Okay. It's not that you should always use unary operator. Okay. And this also can be used as I plus equal to 2. Assignment shortcut operator also we can use. You can go through the video which I have previously uploaded to know about the increment decrement operator and assignment shortcut operators, as it is widely used in loop. So here we can just check what it prints. 2, 4, 6, 8. It just prints adding by 2. I can also add 3 every time, and then like this we can add any condition, but we should always make sure that this statement becomes false in certain case so that it comes out of the loop. Okay. So if the condition never becomes false, then you will run into infinite loop. So let's take an example here. We are saying I equal to 0 and I should be less than 10, right? But we will decrement here instead of incrementing. So currently I equal to 0 and it keeps decrementing, that becomes -1, -2, -3, and it will be always less than 10. So in this case it will be a infinite loop here. If I run this in the debug mode, so first time it will be 0 and it prints 0, then it comes -1, -2, -3. So it will go on forever and it will lead to a infinite loop. Let's run this program and see what happens. See, it becomes infinite loop. So it keeps on printing and it never comes out of the loop. So we should handle this carefully. Or sometimes the loop never starts. So if I say if I equal to 11 and the condition itself says it has to be less than 10, then in this case, if you run this, so nothing is printed because the loop is never reached, as the condition will fail in the first iteration itself. So these two things you should always remember while writing the loops. Yeah, that's it about the for loop. Interview, they might ask for this corner conditions, what happens if it never reaches or something like that. If in interview, if they ask you if you can omit some parts in the loop, yes, you can omit. So for example, I can remove this and just the semicolons are required here, and if you run this it becomes a infinite loop again, and there's no I here. Okay, I'll print some I. So this is infinite loop. Again it keeps printing I here because there is no condition to check here, right? The same way, I don't have to initialize it. I can just add I equal to less than or equal to 5 here, and I can add int I equal to 0 here. So I'll add PrepLoop and let's run this. It will print 6 times here as I is 0 here. Okay, 0 to 5, which is 6. So let's quickly recap what we learned today. So we learned why loops are needed and the syntax of loops, and also how loops executes and different loop variations here. Okay. In the next episode, we will learn 2 more loops in Java, which is while loop and do while loop. Thanks for watching.